Like, I mean, you always got to be on the sidewall going as fast as you possibly can.
I really want to see Roll20 and what exactly is going to come up next in terms of maps. Are we going to see something like Brexis?
Brexis would be my guess. Oh, well, Roll20 went with the first pick, so it's Ballistics taking us to Tomb. No surprise.
Does that actually shock you? Would you think that in this scenario, Roll20 should go for the map and say, okay, we're going to play Brexis against you here and give up the first pick?
I personally would have liked to see that. I think it increases their chances there. And even more so because though North America is comfortable picking the map, I feel like as a general trend within this region, we have shown to be very, very weak. And I think it just gets highlighted heavily in international games, not only considering that this is Ballistics' second seed out of Korea on their second best map. It's just scary to let your opponents have those type of things. Granted, I can understand why we saw the map ban on Dragonshire, because that also is a map that North America doesn't play too often.
Yeah, so Roll20 gets rid of Genji right away. That's first of all respect of Ballistics and the aggressive playstyle that we've seen out of players like, for example, SC. But also, since Genji cannot, on Tomb in particular, maybe not really commit to wave clear, but he's really, really good at helping out, especially the bot lane if you are trying to run a solo here. We've seen a few times now Malfurion, for example, taking a solo lane, and just simply because of the Genji factor in the same team, there was never enough pressure on him to kill him, because there's always a chance of Genji just rotating down quickly, putting pressure onto the solo player on the other side, and that can oftentimes lead to a kill. So at this point, Genji banned out. That doesn't shock us either here, I would say.
Now, you know, it turns out when your W is at a range and it hits all the minions and it wipes them all pretty quick, it makes sense that he's going to be banned on a map like Tomb. But what do we see in the first rotation from Ballistics?
Greymane would be traditionally the pick that you would look towards, I would say.
I would like to see the Greymane, but do they go with something of the ETC? Because the ETC doesn't... Okay, well, turns out they immediately say, yes, in fact, we are going to go with the ETC. I was just going to say he's not maybe doing too hot as a whole when it comes to his results, but more importantly, he has to play the 4-man very linear. He has to concentrate on making sure he has kill potential, or you make up through it in other draft areas where you get more wave clear. But when Rhaegar's already picked up, that generally makes it to where ETC is a little bit behind in his rotations on Tomb.
And also, just one quick side note, as we're talking also a lot about Rhaegar and about the wave clear here in particular, this game is not played on the live patch just yet. We're switching over to the live patch, starting with the playoffs after the group stage, but in this iteration, Rhaegar still has this full wave clear available, and the supports are a bit stronger, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. But again, once that we are heading over into the playoff phase, we are going to see the games played on the live patch, with one exception. Hammer is going to be globally banned because of the massive changes to him.
Yeah, nobody wants to deal with the what if Sergeant Hammer secretly has the most, cheese strategy in the world that nobody can answer?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it right now if you look at public win rates, but then again, when we have certain coordinated strategies coming up, sometimes the pros find an angle that nobody else has been thought of before, and just to make sure that it's not going to be a massive, massive game changer for every single draft, it's definitely the safe choice to make.
So we asked the question of the Arthas in response in the 2-3 in the last draft for Roll20.
Yeah.
We didn't see the decision kind of committed to as they went with that later Garrosh, but this time they will commit to it and pair it with the Stukov. Not the same interactions maybe as with the Anu Barak. It is probably more effective depending on Arthas' positioning, but it's more how the engagement of Arthas is less probable than a Nubrak, so a little bit less offensive.
There's like two aspects to it. This is something that a lot of the teams have been toying around with, and when you talk about Nubrak, you're absolutely right. When it comes to simple engage, he's so much better with this, especially since he dives past the target after a quick cocoon and then goes for the backline, gets another stun in there. You all of a sudden talk about two potential victims and not only one. But the big advantage of Arthas is that if he gets the Howling Blast in and walks up close enough, he really keeps the target in the slow for so much longer. And escape is basically impossible at that point in time. So Arthas has a couple of advantages. I feel they get extended by the small map, and you can really start flanking on these lanes pretty heavily. But of course, you miss out on Cocoon as a potential tool unless you are willing to commit to a Nubrak and laydown as well, which would put them on the damage side maybe in a bit of a problematic situation.
The fact that we saw a Junkrat ban there in the secondary ban phase out of Ballistics makes me wonder if they're willing to pick up themselves that Dahaka for their solo laner up in bottom. I don't think it's a must by any means with the Junkrat ban, because it can be played again in so many different laning situations that it's not... When you see the Junkrat, you don't go, that was solely for the 1 versus 1. It's all kind of reactionary, but it makes the Dahaka a lot more appealing. and in theory, you take it away from Goku, which, though it's not always winning, like we saw into the last game, he's still performing as best as he can here with the team. It's just that Ballistics was winning at all angles of that last game. Yeah,
Ballistics now with the next 2 picks here. We saw a ban on Anna as well. And Gul'dan once again for the wave clear. Lucio too. Very reminiscent. This is so far the exact same draft that we saw on the last map.
Yeah, it's just a little bit different, but yeah, hey, all the heroes are the exact same. So with that in mind, can you go ahead and let me know, what do you think the last pick out of Ballistics is going to be?
I mean,
it's the Tyrael. Save me. It's the Tyrael.
Can they really go for the exact same draft again?
I mean,
yeah.
You asked a question. Yeah. Tyrael technically can solo lane decently, depending on who he's trading into. But then the Junkrat ban seems a little bit more confusing because we have seen teams feel comfortable taking Tyrael as a response to his wave clear.
Have we? I'm racking my brain here. Like on high comparative level, I've seen it in the amateur scene, but back to back, the exact same draft.
I want to say I feel like it very much has happened, but I cannot recall the sequence or the series that it happened.
I think we had it, but I'm not sure when it was the last time. At this point, we have Ragnaros and Li Ming taken. So we have, after a lockdown with Arthas and Stukov Silent, actually an insane amount of kill pressure now on the side of Roll20. Not only Sulfuras, but also a Li Ming combo. If you get that lockdown, there is high potential for Roll20 to just simply body kits. And with Ragnaros, you can also stop the objective. I have to admit, I like this. I'm a little bit worried about the potential Tyrael here, and also, again, we're talking about the game changers. Gul'dan's Horrify can help here, but I like the idea that Roll20 obviously has with this draft that they are running here.
I agree. I enjoyed this draft out of Roll20 very much so. I feel like it's a bit different than what we normally see, but I feel like it's only with respect to the international meta that's kind of forming at this tournament, so I really enjoy this. But that being said, I don't think the Tyrael is as appealing now as it was not only within the last game, but because of that Ragnaros Li Ming transition, there's a lot of different...
Lucio, you need a panic button, I feel. Usually we're talking about panic buttons like a Divine Shield, for example. We talk about an Ancestral that you can use. In this case, you have only Lucio, and Sound Barrier is not going to save you there. The build-up time alone, you would have to really anticipate when exactly Roll20 flips the switch. So Tyrael, again, his Sanctification is amazing, but you need to have the position to drop it first, and that small delay could really lead to Roll20 getting the kill before Tyrael is in position. So I could have seen them switch away from Tyrael into something else, but they decide to run with the exact same draft that they ran on Sky Temple against Roll20.
That was very interesting choice from them. They do have at least SDE on the Gul'dan again to be able to help the 4-man maybe not fall too far behind, because now that they do commit to the Tyrael, I am considering their laning situation. It feels less, offensive as you maybe want in a normal draft on Tomb. I was going to highlight that my concerns normally are that North America typically struggles with understanding turn-in points within the mid-game and kind of wasting some of their gems, but the early game is not dominant enough out of Ballistics for me to feel like that's going to be under too much pressure, and there is still the Ragnaros to hit the pause button in the middle stages if that maybe does end up happening. I didn't think I'd say this, but I think I really enjoyed Roll20's draft.
I like it too, and they have a lot of wave play here as well amongst the heroes that they're running here, especially with Rhaegar, of course, in old duration, with Arthas, Ragnaros in particular. And they've been scrimming a lot against the European teams as well, so that Ragnaros doesn't shock me too much, given that especially Dignitas has showcased that now a few times. The game is starting up in Roll20, maybe down one map, but let's see if they can tie it. Q this time on Rhaegar. We have Li Ming played by Dansky, Jussing on Arthas, Buds on Stukov, and Goku on Ragnaros.
In the red, Ballistics up one game. We have Magi on Lucio, Hooligan playing ETC, Gul'dan played by SDE, Jungha on Tyrael, and SC on Greymane.
And maybe a little behind-the-scenes info. We had most of the European and the North American players yesterday after the games commit to some heavy sessions of a Hero League where they were playing. And interestingly enough, they always found themselves against each other. So we had Kira several times going up against 2 or even 3 of the European players on the other side. lost most of the games, was very frustrated that he was always outnumbered. And then in the end, he won one basically single-handedly at the end and just yelled through the entire practice area, jumped up and had a couple of jumping jacks right there, ran over to Fnatic and rubbed it into Mena's face. French guy was not too happy about that, but it was really fun to see. So with a bit of a confidence boost yesterday, maybe Cure is performing and showing us those little tiny moves that we need now to see a victory over Ballistics.
Ready to establish dominance on his territory. I feel it, you know? After you win the Hero League games, it translates always to your competitive experience.
It's actually really fun to see how just friendly and how well these people match each other. And there's a lot of friendly rivalry going on between all of the teams, especially the Western one. So it's really, really cool to see that, and especially that they hang out this much after the games are done.
And that wasn't necessarily a huge play, but Buds, I feel like it saved first blood going over to Ballistics there with that lurking arm. It was just enough to make sure that Hooligan didn't have the opportunity to get a 2 to 3 man power slide. He will power slide out of this gank attempt from Roll20 in transitions. Roll20 is controlling the laning situation far better than normal, again, for North American 2-man Spider Queen, but when we look at the draft for Ballistics, again, SDE is really the only guy that can control this laning.
I also really like the way that we're currently seeing Ragnaros at the bot lane playing this very, very cautious, always waiting for vision on the rest of the Korean players just to make sure they can move out. So he's playing this quite passive because he knows that there's always a threat that someone is jumping in. Justin has a bit of problems connecting with these Howling Blasts, not a problem on his side. More so Ballistics really playing on point here. And yeah, I'm really excited once this hits level 10. Early game could have a huge impact and maybe start that snowball, but level 10, once that we're seeing Sulfuras in action on the side of Roll20, this is where the game is, in my opinion, going to be make or break.
That Howling Blast was ridiculous, interrupting that power slide to make sure he's able to make it out there. Pixel perfect from Justin. And the control, oh man, Kier for a moment there. I thought we had the ETC making the transition up on top of it. No turn in, really going to happen here for Hooligan. But appreciating Bud's attempt to try and bully out Ballistics within this top lane here. Stukov has been a support pickup in North America for some time, but it's been so very much hit or miss. And to see it kind of brought back here again with respect towards that international meta, Bud's putting on a pretty good showing.
I really like how Hooligan reacts to it, though, because the last silence was actually absolutely perfect. The lurking arm was set so that he needed to travel the most if he tried to escape in a linear fashion away from the fight. So what Hooligan did instead, he just walked into them and slid out then over the other side in that little gap. And that was absolutely perfect. If he just tries to walk away from them, they will not be able to kill him, but they are going to be able to get so much free damage on him that it's going to be rough for him to maintain that aggressive position out there. So Hooligan really with heads-up play against this difficult situation and frontline that he's facing on Roll20's side.
And even though Roll20 here is doing pretty well at matching the wave control that only the solo kind of Gul'dan wave clear has, they're struggling to find themselves turn-ins.
Uh-oh, and that could be a completed one, but a kill against Hooligan would be fantastic. Red Web Weavers are going to be descending. But it's Magi who actually saves ETC. That would have been a fantastic kill for Roll20. If they make that kill happen just as Ballistics turns in, that would have made it so difficult for Ballistics to get enough value, even with the death timers currently still being extremely low.
I really want to highlight the laning decision-making so far postured by Ballistics. It looks like they're willing to commit the transition down to bottom, but I wanted to talk about where the Ragnaros is going to use his Molten Core. If he gets killed, though, that is going to be a tool that the members of Roll20 won't have. Goku getting chased down there by Magi, but he will make it out. I was going to say, when splitting the Gray Mane is going to increase the single target damage available, but now with the rotation for that gank attempt onto Goku, it's going to lead to a pretty easy Molten Core defense on bottom.
Yeah, the defense is going to be, I mean, this is going to be a pretty solid one, and it also gave the rest of the members of Roll20 time to just put serious damage onto the Web Weavers in the mid and top. Talking about the top lane, Cure in a 1 versus 2 getting a kill. Would have loved to see that, to be honest. Not quite sure how that happened.
That was really interesting. I can't even think of a common maybe misclick situation or a kind of awkward moment as to why that would happen.
Especially because there's already a wave in tower range that is soaking up the damage, so either Tyrael absolutely inted or Rega just made a massive, massive play there.
Well, with that,
was an interesting kill.
A turn-in attempt is going to be here for Goku. Nice interrupt with that cocktail from SC.
By the way, that defense was absolutely perfect. Again, with the resources committed by Ballistics towards the bot lane where they were trying to kill Goku but didn't make that happen, we had massive time in the mid and top lane to make sure that they get the defense. But the problem, of course, being Now Ragnaros falling, and Justin maybe dying as well. Not only does that lose you a fair amount of gems, but it also, once again, pushes you away from the potential turn-in.
Nice punishment on the lack of cleanse by Hooligan on that power slide onto Li Ming. Cleanse was used in kind of a panic there to make sure Justin could get out of the situation, and it's just those little plays like that that it feels like the teams that are going to be making it through to the winner's bracket are constantly doing, you know, always pushing any kind of small mistake on the other side.
And it just feels bad for Roll20. They have a stellar defense, then they're going for the turn-in, and just as they nearly have an opportunity to maybe snowball it against Ballistics, Ballistics get the kill against Ragnaros. Now there's still a level until Ballistics hits level 10, but Roll20 in an ideal world would really love to get that turn-in sooner rather than later, just to make sure that they not time it with Ballistics hitting level 10, because that would seriously diminish what they can achieve with it.
I think the biggest thing that I was talking about with the mid-game and these Webweaver phases for North American play is going to be not what happens when Roll20 finds themselves that very first turn-in, but what are they going to be doing with it afterwards, and how often can they make sure that it is effective and they get something with it? Because as you talked about the defense that they saw against Ballistics, that oftentimes is what we see with North America when these Webweavers are turned in. So they lose a couple of the gems, which is setting them back for that doubles turn-in attempt that maybe you want to aim for when you have this Ragnaros. But there is still a chance to get a couple of, hang out in the downtime, just double gold 10 for a small period of time, and then focus on getting those gems in. And when that happens, or if that happens, how does Roll20 make sure that each and every gem is worth something more than just a turn-in?
Yeah. I mean, for Ballistics, they had a really great control over both of the turn-in points up to the moment when they hit their heroics. Then even Greymane committing to the siege camp at bottom, which will force Ragnaros in the more defensive position. Now, Roll20 finally has a level 10. We've been talking quite a bit about how they cannot try and stack up damage to get those quick kills, especially with the burst on the side of Li Ming. It all has to lead, though, with Arthur's getting a Howling Blast and a Silence. And Ballistics gets the second turn-in. So at this point, Roll20 still has to sit tight and somehow defend. They have Molten Core up again, but this is of course a situation which is starting to become a bit worrisome, because if they lose heroes, they are starting to lose massive amount of gems.
And there's going to be a flank onto Goku. Stage Dive is going to be dropped as well. Magi delaying the members of Roll20 up in mid and actually stopping the entire transition down below. And Goku's going to be dead, which means no Molten Core for 15 seconds. That entire thought process that we were talking about with the Ragnaros pickup and kind of how that plays out here was single-handedly countered just by that rotation down below to kill Goku.
And you have to love that decision by Ballistics.
Absolutely.
To say, hey, we're going for the stage dive here. We drop Ragnaros, he's solo at the bot lane, and that means we are going to get way more out of our turn-in. They even get the second kill up at the top as they drop Rhaegar. And now with the fort at the bot lane already gone.
Oh, that's horrifying.
Oh my god. Yeah, that was not pretty. Ballistics putting on a clinic here, dropping Li Ming and Stukov, and Justin is on the run, but he's not going to be able to get out of this one. That means that we have by now 6 kills against 1. Ragnaros defending against the Webweaver, the bot lane. That of course exposes the top and the middle, and that's where Ballistics is currently doing massive damage. And they even start committing to the boss since they're about to hit level 13 and the talent advantage.
I will say, since, Ballistics here is just absolutely dominating since that stage dive decision-making, surprised at how slow this rotation to this boss was. There was, without a doubt, nothing on the map for them to be able to pick up at this point in time. It's a mid-game on Tomb and Spider Queen. The objectives are so few and far between. They ended up making the transition. SC made it in time, but I'm just specifically Tyrael and ETC rotated mid for what wave clear? I'm just saying it's a couple seconds behind here, and I'd like to see those kind of things cleaned up by Ballistics.
But I thought they would try and time it more with the level 13. Making sure that next to the Sanctification, they also have the 13 advantage if they need it. If Roll20 moves in, yes, they already have a great spot with Sanct being available, with the sound barrier of cooldown, but I thought they wanted to make sure that at least during the early seconds of the boss, they hit the tower.
Yeah, that's a good point. That you try and just synergize your power spike so that you get a little bit more out of it. And more importantly, because it is Tomb of the Spider Queen, those swing conditions can be so difficult. But Ballistics, at least they are rounding another Webweaver phase available for them. Roll20 has the opportunity to get a Webweaver phase, but when you're under so much map pressure like this, looking at all 3 of the minion waves completely pushed on the side of Roll20's map, they can't see a thing. There's no way they can make it out to get a turn-in.
I mean, the entire map is under the control of Ballistics.
Except on top.
And there's so much pressure on Roll20, you could create diamonds here. I'm not sure how much I like a turn-in here from them right now. Because
Go ahead and tell me why, Caldor.
Because he can't do anything with it.
Why can't I do anything with it?
Because they're 3 levels behind and they are talent behind as well. And every single cooldown is up on the other side. So, and every single lane is pressured out. Here comes the Horrify. If they now also lose their heroes, that would be a disaster. And Cure goes down already. Sanct is on the ground as they're jumping in for a second potential kill against Buds. SC, on the other hand, nearly falling. Great attempt by Ragnaros, but just not enough. And that double kill puts Ballistics even more in the driver's seat. Make that a triple.
Make it a triple. And the Web Weavers, if they weren't going to make much happen before, the concerns you had with this talent here before, they're definitely not going to make anything happen now.
I mean, I can understand the impulse to say we need to turn in just to relieve the pressure that we're under at this point. But now you lost 50 gems and you gained absolutely nothing out of it. You maybe pushed the lanes out a bit, but you're not even get a single tower out of them.
I really wish I could say like that. I disagree with you, but that was what I was trying to talk about with North America on Tomb of the Spider Queen and international tournaments. When we do this in our own region, no one seems to be able to punish it effectively. But every time it's on an international level, North America plays Tomb of the Spider Queen, the win conditions are kind of tossed. You know, that being said, Ballistics with the dive on bottom, they'd set this game up to be problematic for Roll20. And by no means am I saying this is Roll20 just giving it out, but it does show that exact thing is giving up one of the few win conditions that Roll20 is going to have in this entire game. And they wasted when they're down to talent.
Yeah, let's be absolutely clear about it. The most ingenious thing that Ballistics did in the entire game was that jump with stage dive onto Ragnaros at the bot lane, just as he wanted to make sure that he can defend with Molten Core. Him dying in that situation set Ballistics up for exactly what we're witnessing right now. A 3-level lead, nearly 4 over Roll20. Then once again on the chase, here comes the speed as Magi goes in with Lucio, trying to empower these kills. Justing is trying to zone them out, doing a fantastic job with it. But once again, we have Jongha coming in. Here drops the Sanctification as we see Ballistics going for the kills, and they get the first one against Ragnaros.
Nice interrupt there from Hooligan on that W to make sure that there was no Molten Core opportunity. Only using a basic cooldown to make sure that that huge counterplay was not available for Roll20. Secures the fight. Where are they going to go? Is it going to just be a single turn-in in Giants? So a lot of pressure through bottom with the 13 talent tier, or 3-level lead and a talent tier down. At this point, it's really hard to find a win condition or even a window for Roll20 to come back into this game because it is just so many minions coming down, breaking their base at this point in the game.
Yeah, and you know already that Ballistics will aim for the boss as soon as it's up again because there's absolutely no way for Roll20 to close the gap in experience here. And as we've been talking about already on the last map where they played the exact same comp, Ballistics has insane boss control.
The one thing that I want to see here is maybe if the members of Roll20 are willing to risk not being grouped as a 5 versus 5, because whenever that happens so far through this game, SDE is just, all right, here's the Horrify, thank you for the free kills, because whenever you're, it's such an easy engage tool whenever you're down a man. So see Cure, he's making the transition towards top. Let's see this initiation. It's going to be just a stage dive and an Eldruin follow-up there, at least for now.
Yeah, but down here they lose the keep. I mean, that was more or less a foregone conclusion. The question is, how much more will they lose? We see the mid and the top being defended against, but now Goku is getting chased, trying to move out here. And Ballistics just aims for the second keep now. We have Web Weavers at the bot lane starting to aim for the core. And in the meantime, Ballistics is busying themselves trying to drop a second keep.
Yep, the second keep is going to go... Oh, I maybe spoke a little bit too soon. Unable to get the kill there. Sulfurous Smash ends up being used, but SCE able to sidestep the middle damage. Hooligan hitting the peel with that face melt. Power Slide was actually interrupted, but it's not really going to gain much for Roll20. Still down a turn-in attempt, still down 16 talent here.
Like the combo of ETC with Brockrock, of Tira with his shields, and also Magi on Lucio is doing way better to keep them alive than I thought. And as I said, it's ETC that actually dies. Roll20 finally connecting with their combo, and they are on the chase. Howling Blast hits. Sanctification committed as Tyrell is in trouble. They're trying to isolate Rhaegar, and they get the kill, but Roll20 might not be done yet. They're trying for it. It's a Hail Mary attempt, but Arthur's falls, and Goku is also about to die. Even with Stukov trying to flail them away, it doesn't work.
Dainsky just goes in and is able to at least get the turn there. Dominance proc is able to keep him alive for a second. And, I mean, at least a counter kill there coming out from Roll 20. That was impressive from by Dansky.
And like, counter kills in this situation are actually fantastic because of the underdog bonus that you get. So they are getting a lot of experience for the 2 kills that they are just committed to. And Dansky recovered some of the gems that they had. And they don't have many, so that matters.
Yeah. They sadly only sitting with 39 in the reserves. Ballistics ended up losing the ETC. If they wanted to try and make a cheeky boss play by forcing it immediately, they could just with that stage dive attempt, but it looks like they're going to hold off, not take any risky pre-20 fight here. You know, I just want to see the risk play just because it feels like once 20 is achieved and the boss dance is real, we talked about the boss control, we know the 20 Talenteer fight, it just seems like the only chance.
Yeah, Roll 20 has to YOLO it.
Yeah, there it is.
There's no other way. You know that Ballistics knows where you are, but you have to do something. If you allow Ballistics to get 20 and then take the fight against them, that's a disaster. But Ballistics is playing this incredibly smart. They have the pressure in the mid and the bot lane, and they simply put Greymane on the core. And we all know how fast Greymane rips through these shields.
Yeah, it's pretty much the fastest in the entire game. Chase down from Moggy. They only have 1, 2, 3 interrupts for now. Li Ming and Arthas are going to make it back before the shielding on the core is gone. But they find themselves Goku. The sound barrier is used. But at this point, it's a resource that is not necessary. Thank you. And also, conveniently, with that level 20 upgrade, very, very short cooldown.
Fantastic performance by Ballistics.
Yeah.
Both maps, great coordination. On Sky Temple, there were a lot of moments where Roll 20 did an excellent job, especially Justin, just making sure he gets isolations with Garrosh, great flips, and then kills against Ballistics. But every single time you see a team fight, it's the Korean team dominating the pace of it. At this point, though, Jongha might actually fall, but nope, Sanctification is ready. Here comes the Horrified. Down goes Stukov and Li Ming, as Roll 20 is losing, nearly stealing that boss away, but no.
Holy Ground comes in. The final cherry on top there is Justin.
It just doesn't die.
Stalling the inevitable. Boss is here, 20 Talenteers, stage dive through mid. Ballistics, they have found themselves enough to take game number 2, 18-3 in kills. It was just all started by the brilliant play and down on bottom to focus on the Ragnaros. They knew that that is the stall tactic that North America has been depending on, and they just removed it as even an option.
Yeah, that was incredibly well done. First of all, getting the turn in the first place, the first one that they had, and then with the second one, the kill on Ragnaros, eliminating most of the defense that could have existed on the side of Roll 20, and then it's just another day in the office.
Very clean play there. As you can see, the faces of Roll 20 do seem a little bit concerned there, feeling like maybe higher expectations for their performance than we saw through both games.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I thought they would do better than they did. I didn't necessarily think, okay, this is going to be a 2-0 victory for Roll 20, but I feel after the performance against MVP Black that they would at least threaten to take a map here. And that Ballistics came out and just absolutely bodied them in team fights. That must hurt a little bit.
Yeah, it very much has got to be a struggle. I feel like I want to say I expected that kind of performance from Ballistics, especially on Tomb of the Spider Queen. I can't reiterate how much I feel like it is like North America feels like it's a map that they can run until it comes to an international tournament.
But we come back to the question, map choice or first pick? What do you go for? And really the question, should Roll 20 have gone for map choice instead of giving it up?
Again, I feel like I fall on that side, especially knowing the results, right? Hindsight's 20/20, but Ballistics, I feel like, you know, nothing to take away from Ballistics. They still ended up performing very well. The version of, you know, we see SC get onto a carry and things look very good. Couple of moments in the very first game where Garrosh gave them some trouble, but second game very much a far cleaner performance.
Yeah, definitely. And that was, I mean, it was absolutely dominant what Ballistics did here. And ever since they switched SC back on the carries, I really think Ballistics is just absolutely power spiking here. SDE this time getting the well-deserved MVP. We already talked about him having a massive impact on Sky Temple. Production decided in favor of Greymane, which was played by SC last game, but this time they're in a very comfortable position where they can just split it up. So they're like, all right, we got it. This time you get it.
The draft concept out of Roll 20 into that last game, we saw come to light in a couple of moments, but I feel like that Tyrael pickup is so nice into it because, I mean, the intent is, right, when you hit the Howling Blast, you get the root, you see the silence underneath, and you keep them double snared for as long as you possibly can, and Tyrael will never have the opportunity, but we even saw in that last skirmish, if they doesn't get the kill there, it's so easy with the high impact cooldowns that they have and the counter momentum they have in team fights with those comps. they can just turn things around so fast.
Ballistics make it look easy. They look fantastic in the tournament right now. Roll 20 with, unfortunately, another loss. But we have, of course, 2 more games coming up soon. So, guys, stay tuned and we'll be back in a few.